Hello everyone, in this short tip you'll learn what aggregate exception flatten does and when to use it. We'll look at a small demo that creates nested aggregate exceptions and flattens them for easier handling. When multiple exceptions are combined, for example in parallel operations or when wrapping exceptions, you can end up with aggregate exception that themselves contain aggregate exceptions. That nesting makes it harder to enumerate and handle the individual inner exceptions. Aggregate exception flatten returns a new aggregate exception with a single flattened list of inner exceptions. No nested aggregate exceptions, making it easier to inspect or handle each underlying error. To demonstrate it, let's create three exceptions: E1, E2, and E3. Wrap E3 inside an aggregate exception called innermost, then create inner, which contains E2, and innermost, E2, and innermost, and finally outer that contains E1 and inner. Printing outer inner exceptions shows two entries, E1 exception and the inner aggregate, which itself contains more. If you call flatten, then the result is a new aggregate exception where inner exceptions is a flat list, E1, E2, and E3. A typical pattern is catching aggregate exception, calling flatten, and then iterating over to handle or log each underlying exception. This makes it easier to filter, rethrow, or process errors individually. Of course, if your code relies on the original exception containment structure, which is rare, you should avoid flattening. Flatten is for discovery and simplified handling, not for preserving the original nesting semantics. That's it. Flatten is a small but useful method when you deal with aggregated exception from tasks, parallel loops, or error wrapping code. If you found this useful, like and subscribe for more C# tips.